I'm Carol Leighty. I'm the recently retired superintendent of the Temecula Valley Unified School District, and I was a public school educator in California for 40 years.
Oh, 40 years. All right, so what are your personal experiences, or tell me about your personal experiences with military-dependent students and their families?
I have a personal story to tell because I'm a Navy brat. I'm proudly a Navy brat. My dad was 20 years of service in the Navy, and in my first 9 years we moved 7 times. And by the time I was in 2nd grade, I'd actually been in 3 or 4 schools. So from a personal experience, I understand what it means to be a military student. I became a public school teacher and then an elementary school principal. My first principalship was at a military school in San Diego where 97% of the kids were Navy, and moved around a lot because their parents were at the Naval Training Center. So I had that experience, and I think I got the job because I understood what those kids were going through, because I had gone through it myself. And then as superintendent in Temecula Valley, we were part of a program for parent liaisons to work with our families and our schools from Camp Pendleton. And that was, to me, full circle, an opportunity to pay back and to support our many Marines and their families that are living in Temecula and whose kids are in our schools.
Yeah, do you think there's a difference between like base schools and like public schools or schools off base? Do you think there's a difference in how they treat the students, or?
I'm not so sure there's a difference that way, but I think when children are in a regular public school, not in a school on the base, and the majority of kids at that school are not military and who've probably never had a family member in the military, they really don't understand what the kids are going through, and that school districts haven't been geared up to provide support and services to those families. And now that we're at war, more and more that becomes a critical need.
How has the organization you were affiliated with addressed the needs of military students and their families?
Up until we partnered with Camp Pendleton and until this project began, we were basically doing it by the seat of our pants. Our wonderful principals and teachers saw a need for our children and created programs all on their own that were, to me, miraculous to support the children, to support the spouse that was left at home when the moms or dads were in harm's way, and many of them were in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then to welcome the dads home when they came home, and to honor them on holidays, things that I remember when I grew up and during the Vietnam crisis, that never happened. People weren't honored for their service. And we did that all on our own in Temecula. We honored them for their service. And based on what I saw happening from us endemically, I felt that being able to partner with the University of Southern California and also with Camp Pendleton could only enrich the support for our kids and their families.
Yeah, and it's true, and I think it's hard as a military family member to deal with the lack of support sometimes, you know, because there is a lot of support, but there's also a lot of anger and frustration out there too.
Right, there's a lot of anger and frustration. There's a lot of sense of loss. For the kids, there's a lot of fear, because they know mom or dad are in harm's way, and their peers in their class might not be able to relate to that because their mom and dad come home every night. So it's all those things that, as public school educators, often we're not trained to either A, recognize or certainly address.
Yeah. What are some of the advantages or challenges that you've encountered with military-dependent students?
I think the fact that students move so often, sometimes it's very difficult for them, especially in the high school years, to make sure they're on track to graduate, because every system is different, and when these kids go from Minnesota to South Carolina to Florida to California, the systems are different. And so I think part of it is as kids get older, it becomes academically more challenging, especially for those that are on the college track. And I think for younger children, it's a matter of just being uprooted over and over again and having to make new friends and learning all about a new community, and having a lot of friends of theirs whose parents are not in the military that don't have the same experiences.
Yeah. Do you think there's a way to unify, I guess, school systems? You know, because I guess part of the problem is moving from so many different schools that you learn either differently or different curriculums. You know, and certain credits count, certain credits don't. Do you think there is a way to unify?
Well, I think there is a national effort right now to do that very thing. And I think school systems have become a lot more understanding of the situation. We had a senior that came to us about 2 years ago and was short credits, and we found a way to help him to graduate in June because he had done everything right, and just because the systems were different, it didn't seem fair to penalize him.
Yeah.
So I think school systems are becoming more attuned, but at the national level, we're looking at that, and it really needs to be done.
Yeah. Are you familiar with any initiatives or special programs that target?
Well, the one we're most familiar with is our parent liaison program through Camp Pendleton, and it's been absolutely wonderful. We have parents who work for the office at Camp Pendleton. They're in our schools. They help us identify our families, find out what the family needs are. They help organize programs at the schools. They've been with us now for 2 years, and it's been absolutely wonderful. So that was my first introduction to support. And when I went to the first meeting with the commandant and other officials from Camp Pendleton, I was shocked by what I didn't know about the services that were available not only to families but to schools. And so we have really partnered with them and done a lot of things to benefit not just our military families, but the understanding of the whole Temecula community.
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't even know there were efforts out there.
It's wonderful.
So that is really good. What do you consider the top priorities in working with military-dependent students?
Support, support, more support. Support first and foremost for the kids. I mean, and that's what the aim of this project is, to really help them, but also the families, because if it affects the child, you know it's affecting mom or dad, and if sometimes what's affecting mom and dad has an additional effect on the child. But I think what's unique about this program that I'm really excited about is support for the teachers and the principals, because that's never really been done before, and we have teachers who are very, very caring, but they might not know what to do, and they'll do it if they have the skills or the ideas or the support to have it happen, and the same for our principals. So what I'm really excited about this program, it's a systems approach to supporting the kids and their families, but it doesn't forget that the support system itself, the teachers and the principals, also need encouragement and skills.
Yeah, so it's support all around.
All the way around.
Yeah. Which is good. Do you think public education has responded to the needs of military-dependent students?
I think we're beginning to. I think there was a lot of unknowns and unspoken situations that now we're beginning to address, and not afraid to address it, and not afraid to have students whose parents might be deployed give them the support that they need. Before, I think it just kind of happened and no one really recognized the, I don't use the word lightly, sometimes the trauma that kids went through when either mom and dad were gone, and they, through technology now, they get to talk to him more often than I got to talk to my dad when he was gone for 6 or 8 months at a time. But they also know that it's very dangerous. And that's something that wears on a child, and being able to provide support for them through that time period is really, really important.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last question is, I know that since you just got here, I don't know if you've been doing much of the workshop, but tell me about what you kind of expect to get from the workshop today, or if anything you already have, or...
I think I have an understanding of what the program is trying to do, and I think the benefit of the workshop today is to provide the interns with the skills that they're going to need, so as they go back into the schools, they can support the group that we've been talking about, the students, their parents, the teachers and the principals. And I think getting those skills today and tomorrow, in addition to all the other skills that they're getting through their program here at USC, that they're going to be able to take those activities and put them in the schools, and we're going to see a benefit for our kids right away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Do we need to do that last one? Because they're finished.
Yeah, maybe one more time, because while you were talking, these.
Oh, did it shoot on?
Shoot on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just ask the question.
Okay.
Again. Sorry to make it.
That's all right.
Talk
No.
all that again. But it's good talking. So what do you think you're going to get out of this workshop for today, or what have you already kind of learned from this workshop and the program that they're doing here?
Well, I think I have a big overall view because I was in on the planning for the grant writing. But I think what's going to happen today is the interns that are in our schools, not just in our school district, but other school districts, are going to get more skills in addition to what they're learning through the USC MSW program. And they're going to be able to take those skills and those activities and put them into the classrooms right away for our kids, our teachers, and our principals.